what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Exchange on the Mesh Podcast Network, a monthly conversation about startups and small business with ideas, tools, and advice to operate your business more effectively. On today's show, if you went to a bank, what is the most terrifying new business you could present to them to make sure they would not give you any money? It's a restaurant or bar, right? Right, Gary?
I'm not saying that now.
Okay. But today's guest, Zack Cranford, has not only succeeded in opening restaurants, he's opened a distillery and brewery. We'll talk about the challenges of starting a food and beverage business with Zack, and we'll also be highlighting some small businesses on our Small Business of the Month feature that you should be checking out. Hello, my name is Jeff Newville. I'm your co-host. I'm director of the Manufacturing Solutions Center in Cranford, North Carolina. I'm joined by my co-host, Gary Muller, who is Executive Dean of Economic Development and Corporate Education at Catawba Valley Community College in Hickory, North Carolina. Gary, how's it going today?
I'm doing great. I'm with two of my favorite people for our podcast today. You and, of course, Zack Cranford. One of the best partners we have in the world from a hospitality standpoint for our college.
Well, very good. And it's we're talking here in late May. It's beautiful weather here in Western North Carolina. You getting out? You having a good time, Gary?
I am. I love this kind of weather.
Yeah, you hitting the golf course?
No, I'm not hitting the golf course like I used to.
Okay. Well, yeah, you need to get back.
I'm getting older.
There.
I got a bad back.
Yeah. Well, but you still look young, so that's good for you. But let's welcome our guest, Zack Cranford. Zack, how are you doing?
Great. I'm glad to be here today.
We're happy to have you. And Zack, you graduated from North Carolina State's Poole College of Management. So you're a Wolfpacker?
That's right. Yeah, we just got back from Phoenix, so able to go down there and watch them play in the Final Four. May never happen again.
Well, congratulations to the Wolfpack. You know, I went to Chapel Hill. Gary went to Wake Forest, but go ACC when we get into the tournament. And
there we go.
It was a fun run.
It was a great run by state. And like I just said, it's the NCAA baseball, and all three of our schools are in the tournament.
Zack founded Foothills Distillery in 2014, and the distillery is known for producing North Carolina's first legal bourbon whiskey, 1712, which I have sampled. I've probably done more than sample it. It's very, very good stuff. You can find it in ABC stores in North Carolina, Michigan, and Washington, D.C., maybe other places?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And in 2016, you opened the Standard Oyster Factory in Hickory, North Carolina, relying on local fishermen to fill out much of the menu. And you've revitalized and renovated Hickory's oldest steakhouse, the Charlet. And most recently, you and your family opened the City Walk Brewery and Cranford Brothers Barbecue here in Hickory, North Carolina. In addition to being a restaurateur, you also work with entrepreneurs who are entering the hospitality business. Did I get that right?
Yeah, absolutely. We wear many hats.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you joining us today. So you're a business major. How did you get into the hospitality industry?
Yeah, so I grew up in the hospitality industry. Our family has grannies. Mom and dad were one of the founders of that. And the hospitality industry is just an industry that for many of those that are in it will understand what I'm saying. For those who haven't been in it, they won't. It just kind of draws you into it. You're either made for that and cut out of that cloth, or you're not. There's no better feeling than having a perfectly executed shift. It's kind of, I want to say, organized chaos, per se. And when you hit it right and you're firing on all cylinders, I think that high you get from it, that's what keeps the folks that love hospitality in hospitality.
So did you sort of know that you're going to be getting into the hospitality industry? It was in your roots, and you figured you'd pick up a little business knowledge and apply it?
I think this happens to a lot of folks. It was you grow up in it, and you live in it, and you go to, I went to business school thinking maybe I wanted to be an accountant or maybe be some type of professional, and you go there and study it and more learn the language of business than anything, and it kind of draws you back in because you love that feeling, you love executing, you love that team atmosphere. It's just a hard feeling to explain. I think those that are in it will kind of feel where I'm coming from.
You've got a passion for it.
Absolutely. Passion's a great word for that. Yeah.
So you started with a distillery, and why a distillery, and what challenges did you have in getting that one up and running?
Yeah. So going through our entrepreneurship program there, we had to work with a business, and one of our teachers at the time, or professors at the time, had a really great idea. Work with a business that's in the real world. You learn more from that class than you do from anything else. And I remember, like, day one, you come in there and the different businesses pitch, these are our problems that you're trying to solve. And then he flips it around and you get your team together and you pitch why you want to work for that business. And so we got paired up with a cool business. It was kind of alcohol beverage related at the time. So that kind of got the gears turning. What do I want to do? I really enjoyed that work there. And looked at the distilling industry, and it was very young at the time from when I say young, the North Carolina side of it. Distilleries had been around forever.
I would think that the breweries were probably bigger, more growth going on there at that time than in distilleries.
Yeah, that was kind of what the research was lending to. It was like distilleries were 10 or 15 years behind the breweries. So it's kind of like the next potential wave.
Get on and get in there early.
Yeah, and matter of fact, you get issued your DSP with distilled spirits plant. We were like number 16 ever in North Carolina.
Wow.
At that time. Now I think City Walk Brewing and Distillery, we applied for ours in like 2020. I think it was 2023. We're 152. So you think about the growth from 16 to 152 in 8 or 10 years. It's tremendous. Yeah.
And that's just for distilled alcohol, not for beer.
Yes, correct. That's only for distilled spirits.
So I would think there's a lot. There are probably 123 just in Asheville when you come to breweries.
Absolutely. And I think part of that was like legislation. Breweries had more flexibility at that time. So it was a little more easier to enter for them, where distilleries were lagging, just because there probably weren't a bunch of distilleries around pushing legislators for help. Yeah.
So
it always comes down to politics.
So you I guess it sounds like you sort of when you were in college, just sort of worked with a distillery, or
it was actually a brewery at the time, but that kind of got me thinking in that direction, staying in the hospitality field. So it was definitely a fun business to open and to get going off the ground.
So what challenges to get it open initially did you have? I mean, it sounds like, I've worked with some small businesses, and just there's a lot to navigate when it comes to selling any type of alcohol. So
yes,
I got to think that that's sort of a maze that you had to figure out.
Yeah, you have to turn over all the rocks to figure out, especially not knowing where the rocks are. You just kind of got to keep your head down. There was a lot of legal side of that, a lot of permitting required. That was probably one of the biggest challenges. And then once you're open, I think the second biggest challenge was understanding how the system works, specifically in North Carolina, how it's a controlled state, how to best navigate that. And I would say it's changed so much in the past 10 years. It's you can do tastings at ABC stores now where you couldn't do. They don't allow it here in Catawba County.
They've never offered
it's up
me
to
one.
up to the board. But that's a big thing outside of Catawba County that we've kind of found out since we were hitting the market again.
So back then, was the only way to distribute through ABC stores here in North Carolina?
You couldn't sell a bottle out of the facility. You could not, things that just seem crazy now, you couldn't sell a bottle out of the facility. It was only through the stores. And then there was a time when some groundbreaking legislation passed where you could sell one bottle per person per year, and then it went to you can sell one bottle per person per day, and then next thing you know, there's cocktails involved, and next thing you know, and that's one of the reasons that led us to being able to want to make the investment that we did at our new facility. So
I'm not an expert when it comes to producing liquor. I've tasted some, but are there, from a business perspective, are there cash flow issues if you're distilling liquor? In that, how long does it take to produce? And I assume there's some time lag between the investments you're making and generating revenue.
Absolutely. So beyond the normal accounts receivable, accounts payable dilemma that goes on in businesses. That's a challenge for any brewery that's getting in wholesale or any distillery that's getting in there. You are also just continually investing in product, knowing that you're literally burying money in the ground that's going to, hopefully grow and turn into something else. But you got to be able to withstand the burn. You also got to know your numbers and plan for that burn. It's a unique business to be in, especially coming from the restaurant world, because you can get, a burger patty in. Hopefully you're cooking that burger patty in the next day or two, and then you're turning that into money to be able to pay your staff and be able to live off of. Where this one, you're putting it in the barrel. You got to be patient. You got to wait. You got to. You have a newfound appreciation for patience.
So you went through school and learned the financial side.
Yeah.
So that had helped you a lot, because what you're saying, as you just described, it's an investment in the future.
Yep.
And so a lot of people, entrepreneurs as a whole, don't realize the financial obligations or don't know how to put those projections together. And they may have a great idea, but they don't realize how much money they're going to have to get started.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. So I was a double major, studied entrepreneurship, which was kind of like fell in the business admin side, but also then majored in accounting there as well. And
so you had the perfect.
Yeah. So learned the language of it, learned how it worked.
Gary thinks accountants are perfect.
Entrepreneurs and accountants, I can't think of anything better.
Okay.
But the biggest tool I learned from doing that dual major was being able to plan, being able to understand how cash flow statement works and what it does to a balance sheet and how things balance in between. Because if you don't understand that, a lot of times you can kind of get lost. Yeah. And, some
if you
people
don't understand that, you're probably going to get lost.
Yes. Some people might say,
because it's hard.
Money's coming in, but then my bank account's going down. They don't understand the dynamics of inventory, and there's just a bunch of different. So it's good to know that.
And I would assume that starting a brewery, I don't know how long it takes to brew beer, but I assume that time frame is shorter than distilling liquor.
Yeah, we can turn those grains into product that's sellable in 14 days. Yeah. Relatively speaking, 14 days.
And what about distilling bourbon or whatever other spirits that you might be making?
So, from a strategy standpoint, it's good to have vodka. It's good to have gin. Things that are quick, that are clear, to help cash flow it for a little bit. Because bourbon, you're talking a minimum 2 years essentially.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I did not realize.
And the more you can fill up, the better off you're going to be. It's literally like just planting the seeds for later on down the road.
So
that's perfect. Coming back to, I'm sorry, I'm back in the accounting, but it's a 2-year lead time. You really are putting it in the ground, like you say. And you've got to have enough cash flow or coming in from something else.
Absolutely, you got to pay rent on the building, or you got to pay a mortgage payment on that building. So you got to. I mean, there's a lot of aspects to factor in. So you got to be really sharp, and also set yourself up for success when you do it. Be conservative. Don't have over. I love entrepreneurs that are over ambitious, but when it comes time to do the planning and budgeting side, we need to be realistic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and understanding how much you need in startup funds before you start planting those seeds is very important. You would like to be able to harvest them at the end of the cycle there.
Absolutely.
So you've purchased existing restaurants and now you're starting a new restaurant. Talk to us, from a business perspective, the different challenges folks run into when it comes to modifying and improving an existing location versus starting something that's brand new. What are the different challenges that you ran into?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess let's talk about an existing restaurant first, if that's okay. So in that scenario, likely the hoods are in place. Likely a lot of the bones are already in place. So you have to think outside the box, but you already have the box kind of conformed and there. So the way you think and that mindset's a little bit different than if it's a blank canvas, which both pose challenges in their own regard. If you have limitations, I don't know, it's just a different set of challenges. when it comes time to draw it up. I feel like when we draw up a restaurant floor plan, we'll draw it up 100 times, either side of the spectrum, and then we'll discuss flow dynamics. We'll discuss, execution from the kitchen, how to make it. There's just so many things. We said in the beginning, organized chaos. There's a lot of things that go on in a day-to-day of a restaurant you got to think about. And if you this is kind of more of an entrepreneur wanting to get in the hospitality industry. If you've never worked in it, you need to work in it before you just go out and say, hey, I want to own a restaurant.
Make sure you like it in the real world.
I like food, therefore I should run a restaurant.
That goes well for a lot of people, I'm sure.
So you're talking about having an existing box, and I guess that sort of helps you when it comes to the equipment that you have to purchase. But do you have to do, in your mind, do you do some rebranding? Do you talk about figuring out how to change the concept a little bit? What's
every situation's different. Every building's different. Every brand's different. So you got to look at it. Take a step back. I know entrepreneurs, we can get really, I guess we're passionate about what we do, and we can kind of be blinded by our emotions. Mm-hmm. So you got to really step back on that. I think a good example of that would be the Charlet. For that one, that's a business that's been there forever. They had a lot of customers that had spent special moments there. So it was like, how do we capture those customers? How do we make them feel comfortable? But also, how do we capture new customers that maybe they previously weren't doing? And that's a challenge to blend an old business and a new business together and do it effectively.
Yeah, because you want to keep those customers that had those special moments and different things, and then bring in the other folks. But I guess they're going to have different views of what they're looking for.
Yeah,
but of course, if it's great atmosphere and great food, then that's going to bring them all in.
You didn't change the name. I mean, it's you're maintaining that connection to the old customers. Did you change other things in that situation?
Yeah, so we thought that the name, the legacy that they had was very important. Have one of the things that they did well was having that cart that goes tableside. Mm-hmm. That experience, the experience there was very rich. You had the salad bar. You had an old school atmosphere. It was dated. It needed a facelift, and it needed somebody to just carry the torch of what they were doing and bring it to the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're starting a new venture, you talked about a blank canvas. Do you think about it in terms of layout? Do you think about it in terms of concept and brand? Or are there certain steps you take, or do you sort of hit you all at the same time?
Yeah, all of that kind of work together. We have stuff in our back pocket from a concept perspective that we'd like to do based on the fit. I think we're a little unique in most restaurateurs lease. We decide to own our property and kind of control our destiny in that regard. So we have a different perspective. We may find a building and then come up with the concept, where some people may just have their first concept and they're gung-ho about it, and this is what they want to do, and then they find it in that space, where we try to personalize it to the space.
That's interesting.
Which is maybe a different perspective.
So that sounds like a little bit different perspective than maybe some folks.
Yeah. And not everybody can be in a position where they're able to do that. Sometimes you may just have to lease it. That may not be a position where you can, or it may just not be it may be in a location that's desirable, that's a good fit. There's a lot of factors that go into that, but that's just how me and my family decided to grow when we.
Do you have a separate person that manages the properties versus the business?
We do it. It's mom, dad, me, and my brother. Right. I mean, we're a closely held family business, but we're also in this weird dynamic where, we started with one location, and then we've grown into now a lot of locations. So the way we manage things are a little bit different. It pushes the envelope. It's one of them where it's like more sales, more locations should, in theory, make our lives a little easier, because we can kind of begin to afford the levels underneath us to better take care of our customers. It's kind of an odd dynamic, because you think more money, more problems, but in some regards, we're looking at it as more locations, more sales that will allow us the opportunity to better serve our customers. Yeah.
But I would think that from when you're a family-owned business and you're trying to scale, that can create some issues and tensions, and that you probably have to rely on more people than you did when you just had one restaurant. And sometimes it's hard to find the right people. Sometimes it's hard to delegate and let go of things.
Absolutely. That's a thing being, very small for a long time is you're very involved in the business. So you know every aspect of the day-to-day. And then as you get larger, you just can't. There's just no way possible. So we've had to learn how to lead differently, how to empower people. And I think once you get to our position that we're in, that's more of what we do is leading people than cooking this or cooking that or, touching tables. Is we're empowering our employees and our team to take care of the others.
And just like you say, as you're growing, you can't, four of you, no matter how hard you try, can't have your fingers in the middle of things like you did before.
As much as we want to, because that's, going back to, you love the industry. That's one of the reasons we're in it, is because we love being in there and we love being in the weeds. Yeah.
Well, in addition to operating your own establishments, you also provide some consulting assistance to people that are going into the hospitality industry. When you're working with them, are there specific challenges that you sort of see come up on a regular basis, and obstacles that they have? And obviously, one that quickly comes to mind is access to capital, just because that's any business, it's a challenge, and particularly in the hospitality industry, that's a lot of the lenders are a little skeptical of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So access to capital is always a tough one. If you're a first-time restaurateur, I would try to bootstrap as much as you can. Bootstrap. I can't say it enough. You buy used equipment, buy something that doesn't need to have shiny, brand new tires to function properly. Figure out how to be as resourceful as possible with how much you're spending, and it'll help you in the long run. You won't have a big payment. You won't have whatever the issues that may be if you bootstrap properly. So I can't preach that enough. The other thing that we see is just simply knowing your numbers, knowing where you need to be, tracking it daily, understanding that. People that do that will be just fine. Ones that don't take care of that, they're going to have issues because they're just not watching it like they should. And it's a tough thing to say and to do, because the restaurant world is so demanding. So it can be pulling you from so many different directions, but you have to stay focused on knowing your numbers.
It doesn't sound like it's important to focus that, like I said, when everything's coming down on you from the operations standpoint, that I can get to the numbers later.
Yeah.
And when you in your type of business, when you say look at the numbers, are you looking at I'm sure you're monitoring expenses. Are you looking at like the number of customers that come in? What sort of metrics do you focus on most quickly?
Yeah, for sure. So the two biggest things in the restaurant industry, we call it our prime cost. So like your fixed cost, what your rent is, it's what your rent is. What your gas bill is, it's what your gas bill is. That's not going to relatively change too much. So we're worried about that variable cost, and that's what we call prime. So our food cost and our labor cost. And that's, in essence, a restaurant is a pass-through business. The majority of the money that comes through passes out to employees, passes out to food vendors, to whatever. So we need to make sure that we are budgeting properly and that we're spending exactly what we need to spend on food and labor. If we do that, then we'll be just fine.
Are there specifics that you track on the top line in terms of sales, or
and of course we want to. Sales are just as important.
I don't know if you break it out in certain ways to look at the number of customer visits, or is the pontoon lager selling better than the other?
We know, and that's going back to knowing your numbers. We know exactly what beer is our number one seller. We know exactly what's in second place. So, and it depends on the day of the week, depends on the crowd in there. Pontoon and opposite end of the spectrum, our fanny pack hazy in the tap room go neck and neck.
Okay.
Yeah, because your pontoons, you're going to get your domestic drinker that's maybe not a craft beer guy. They're going to drink that pontoon. Where hazies are just popular beers right now. So a craft person's going to want that hazy.
And then from a restaurant, you're running a barbecue restaurant now. You know what the top dishes are there.
Yeah. You're gonna know exactly, and that's something with barbecue you're planning ahead of. You gotta really. You're smoking the meat for the next day that night, So you got to plan and budget and put exactly what you need in because you don't want to have leftovers, but then also you don't want to be short and miss out on sales. So it's an interesting dynamic.
So you have to know your numbers or the demand because, like say, the inventory is going to be a big number for you, and if you forecast right, then it works out well.
Also, that's something I hadn't mentioned was you said word inventory. We're highly perishable in a restaurant world,
so you have
to know where your margins should be on that because it's not like you can just
can't use it next month.
Yeah, right. It's not like the whiskey world where it's going to sit there and age for 2 years. We got to turn it over and we got to do it quick. Yeah.
Well.
Well, that's why you got to, like say you got products that are going to be there for a long time, and then you got ones that are very perishable. So you got to know it, and you got to have the people that are helping you manage understand that well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Zack, you hit on the importance of bootstrapping and trying to minimize the amount of outside funding that you need and do it on your own. Is there other advice for entrepreneurs that you would have entering the hospitality industry?
They work in it first. make sure you enjoy that and you want that lifestyle. Because if you enjoy weekends and that's your lifestyle, then you're probably not. That's probably not the right industry for you, or the model needs to be shaped where you need to really think about that because your lifestyle is differently. It's the reality of the industry.
I imagine you have some late nights as well.
Absolutely. My wife, it was probably an adjustment in the beginning for her, because she works. Now she works 7 on 7 off in the hospital, but it's just sometimes duty calls and you got to step up and you got to be there at odd hours. Sometimes, and if you run thin anyways, and restaurants generally run thin, you're the next person on the sideline to be entered in if somebody calls out.
It's your own business. It's kind of 24/7, even if that's not what your hours are on the wall.
Last night I got 2 calls I got one call at 9:45 and another one at 10:45 at night. You got to take the calls and handle the problems. Whatever that issue is. Yeah.
They weren't asking you to come in bartend or anything, were they?
No.
So we need an extra bartender. Things are going crazy. All right, kind of get in here. Well, Zack, we really appreciate you joining us today on the Entrepreneur Exchange. But while we got you, we'd like to do our lightning round with you if you're up for it.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right. Well, this month's lightning round is sponsored by Ned Ryerson Insurance. Whole life, auto, flood, home. You can't have enough insurance. Right, Gary? Am I right?
Absolutely.
All right. Check it out.
I have a lot.
Stay safe with Ned Ryerson. Check it out on the internet. So we have some quick questions. Don't overthink it. Quick answers. Question number 1. What's your favorite TV show or movie?
TV show or movie? Gosh, I'm not being quick here. Honestly, I don't watch a whole lot of... I'm in the NBA Finals right now.
Are you an NBA fan?
I'm normally not, but I like watching the Mavericks right now. Okay. I think they're that Kyrie and Doncic is just a fun combo to watch.
Do you think they have a chance against Boston?
I hope so.
Okay. I'm pulling for them as well. All right. Adult beverage of choice.
Whatever's next.
Is that a drink or is that...
That is not a drink. It's whatever's next. I'm a big person that if I go into a place and I'm talking to the bartender or wherever, I'm letting them drive the car. So I'm open to trying new things. That's just how my taste buds are.
Do you prefer cocktails or brews? Or do you...
I prefer it all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hard to tie him down, man.
Yeah.
All right. Would people characterize you as sweet, salty, or sour?
Situationally, all the above. I think that's...
I think that fits. I understand what you're saying.
He's running for office here, okay?
I think from an entrepreneur standpoint, you wear many hats, and that's why sometimes I'm working the line, sometimes I'm doing an admin, sometimes I need to be sweet, sometimes I need to be sour. So I think...
What would your wife call you?
All of them.
Consistent.
Consistent.
Oh, gosh.
Last
My
question.
wife wouldn't call me consistent.
Last question. If you were an Olympic athlete, we do have the Olympics coming up this summer. What sport would you compete in?
I always enjoyed basketball because you can really, I guess, just from a team perspective, one player can shine, but they still need everybody on the team working together to
We just
to
tried
make
the
it happen.
Mavericks. You've
Yeah,
got two great players, and they got different skills.
I think in baseball, one player can take it over, or not necessarily the case in basketball.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you playing our lightning round. We appreciate you joining us today. We always like to end the podcast giving a shout out to small businesses. And Zach, you have a few. Any small business you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, for sure. One that comes to mind just right now would be Malachi at Taproot Coffee, young entrepreneur, out hustling. You see him out his bus there. They roast great coffee, and we did a collab with them recently. We actually called it Wheels on the Bus. It was a coffee blonde stout. So love what he's doing for our community. Also, just being a like-minded entrepreneur that's out hustling. So shout out to Malachi. Yeah.
Taproot Coffee. That's in Hickory, North Carolina, and he has like a cool bus that he operates out of. So check him out at Taproot Coffee. Gary, what are you going to give a shout out to this month?
Well, I'm going to give a shout out to a variety of ones. First of all, the hospitality partners that help support our community, and of course, Zach's a key part of it with the chamber and everything else. But all of our hospitality partners out there, we support them all. And then I have one that you'll know, the person, but you may not know the business. I was working with her this week, and it's Lovely Day Studio, and that's Carly Charles. Do you know Carly from marketing and CVCC? She's one of our very good friends. They do a lot of great things to help support our community as well as our college. And I'm happy to say she's a CVCC graduate and also Skills USA national champion. So she's got a lot of good check marks for us, but she's a super nice person. But now we'll talk about her small business, which is Lovely Day Studio. Make sure I have that right. She aims to provide kindness, good vibes, and positivity to all with her art. She sells her art on different products and a small creative shop that she's created online. You can check her out at lovelydaystudio.etsy.com. She hand illustrates everything, designs and produces everything herself. And then right now she's just doing bookmarks, stickers, and buttons. But I'm giving the early shout out to her because I know she's going to be doing great things in the future. She's going to come out with more things she's going to be doing in the next month or so. But I wanted to give a shout out. She's a good friend, and starting business from start is tough.
Oh, very good.
But she'll do great.
Okay. And I'm gonna cheat a little bit. This isn't really a business, but I wanted to give a shout out to a collaborative that our Manufacturing Solutions Center is involved with, called the North Carolina Textile Innovation and Sustainability Engine, which is several organizations working together to create a circular textile environment. And basically, what we're saying is, a lot of textile products go into the landfill. We're trying to figure out how they can be reused, repurposed, and avoid going into the landfill. The lead organization is a group called the Industrial Commons out of Morganton. Our Manufacturing Solutions Center is part of it, along with partners Gaston Textile Technology Center, the North Carolina State School of Textiles, Western Piedmont Community College, and NC IDEA. You can check it out at nctise.org, North Carolina Textile Innovation and Sustainability Engine, and you can learn more about it and find ways to get involved, and appreciate any support we get there. So check it out. Zach, we want to thank you again for joining us. If people are looking for you and the various hats that you wear, where should they be checking you out?
My office is based at City Walk Brewing and Distilling, so I'm spending a lot of time there. But you could see me at any place, any day.
But if you go to www.cranfordhospitality.com, they'll also see you and many of the I guess probably all the things that you're up to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Restaurants.
Yes, absolutely.
So check out Zach there.
You see Zach in our community. He's doing a lot of things to make our community the best that it can be. Thank you for all of your hard
Thank you.
work.
There's a lot of people out there doing that, so we're just all trying to row in the boat and make it better, for sure.
Well, we appreciate your work. We appreciate your food and drink, and I'm sure. And I think I was actually at an event over at the Hickory Art Museum last night, and
Nice. We had some guys there pouring some beers. Yeah.
I had like maybe a blueberry wheat or something like that.
Yeah, honeysuckle wheat.
Honeysuckle wheat.
We call that Lakeland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm doing the mild stuff, but it was a school night. So anyway, so thank you, Zack, for joining us. We always want to give a shout out to our friends at the Mesh Podcast Network. You should check them out at themesh.tv, and you'll see a variety of different podcasts from business, entertainment, sports, but a lot of cool stuff going on there. So check out themesh.tv, and we'll look forward to talking with you again next month. Thanks very much.
Take care, everybody. Enjoy the next month.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.